Hi, this is Scott with eTrailer. Today we're taking a look at and installing a B&W fifth wheel kit for our 2016 Ford F-350. The B&W Patriot we have in our F-350 today is a really good setup if you have a fifth wheel camper or a trailer that you're looking to pull. One thing to keep in mind is you want to take a look at your owner's manual and make sure you're not exceeding any tow ratings that you have in your manual. So best bet is to go between the tow rating between your hitch and the lowest number in your manual. Now this is going to be a good option for people that have the 8-foot bed. This one is not the slider style. If you have a shorter bed, you may want to take a look at the slider style. Those are good for parking your camper in shorter spaces, smaller areas. It's going to allow you to back it up a little bit easier. But this one's perfect for this setup. This is going to be for the non-OEM prep package. So this one is going to have all the hardware that you need, the brackets that you need, your rail setups that you need, really good instructions as well on how to get this set up. So I really like that with this one. This is going to be a removable setup. You're going to be able to remove the head itself. You just lift this up, you can remove the head. And that's going to make it a little bit lighter, so when you want to take off your base, it makes it a little bit easier to handle by yourself if you have to. This setup is going to be a really nice gray powder coat finish, so it's going to hold up really well over time. But one thing I do recommend with these is I do recommend getting a plastic lube plate on this. That's going to help keep the head of your hitch lasting a long time without getting all scarred up. One of the things I like about this one as well is you go ahead and open up your handle, and when you back in your trailer, what's going to happen is it's going to push forward. Your kingpin's going to push forward on your jaws, and your jaws are going to come closed automatically and then lock in place. Then after that is all hooked up, all you have to do is come back here and put your pin in place, and you're all set to tow. This is going to be a 360-degree around your pin, so that's a really secure, heavy-duty design. I really like that about this one. Another nice thing is it's going to be adjustable, so you can set it up for whatever type of trailer that you have. These arms down here, you can get these set up where you want them. They will come up. You can bring them forward, you can bring them back, and flip them different directions, so it really opens up the possibilities. If you have a certain type of trailer, this is going to be able to get set up for you. So if you have any questions or comments about this hitch, feel free to leave a comment below, or you can get a hold of one of our experts here at eTrailer. Now for installation, this is pretty kind of technical. There's a lot of measuring and drilling of holes through the bed, so you got to make sure you have everything just right to get this installed. Other than that, it's something you could definitely do yourself at home if you have a couple buddies helping you out and a separate set of eyes. Other than that, if it's something you don't feel like doing yourself, you can always take a look at our dealer locator and have something done for you locally. If it's something you feel like doing yourself, stick around, watch our video, and we'll help you get it installed. To start my installation, I'm just getting my rails put in place, and you want them to be squared up in the bed of your truck. So I'm just double and triple checking all of my measurements before I mark my holes and get it set up to drill. One of the things you want to keep in mind is you want to go by the instructions with the type of vehicle that you have and pay close attention that you're installing it the way that they have you do it in the instructions. It's really important that you get your measurements right, so that way everything stays square and lines up properly. Now with this one, I'm using a base to get everything squared up and help me square everything up. It just makes it a little bit easier to get this one set in place, and then I can get my measurements from the back of my rail to the back of my bed. And if you do have a spray-in bed liner, you're going to want to give a little bit for that, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so, just because of the thickness of that. So keep that in mind as well. So now for my measurements, I'm just going from the edge of the rail back to the edge of our bed. And I'm going to do that in several different locations. That way I know we're good and squared up. Now you're going to want to get your same measurement from the edge of your wheel well over to the edge of your rail. So you want to get that number the same on each one of these. Make sure you're good there. And you're going to do the same thing with the ones in the front. So you want to make sure you're good on those. Now this may take you a few times because you may be off a little bit on your numbers, so you'll have to bump it back and then you'll have to go back and then check the measurement front to back, and just keep doing it a few times until you get everything right before you go marking and drilling your holes. Now we have our holes all marked out, and what you want to do is take a look in your instructions and make sure you go to the correct holes in your diagram. And ours is showing the outside holes on both sides. Now we'll have the center rear hole on this one and the center front hole on our front one. Now we have all of our rails and everything out of the way, so what I want to do is come back through and just take a punch, and I just want to punch that out so when I drill, my drill doesn't want to walk. So I'll do that all my spots where I have marked out. Then I'll come back through with a small bit and we'll drill those out to make sure that our brackets line up underneath. After we've got our pilot holes all done, we're going to come back through with our 17/32 drill bit and drill out all of our holes. Now after I've cleaned up all of the shavings from drilling our holes, I'll come back through and squirt all of them with a little bit of black paint to prevent corrosion in the future. In our kit, we're going to have these half moon spacers. And what we're going to do with these is we're going to run these up in between our hat channel where our holes come through. And those are going to go and line up with the hole that we drilled through. And what that's going to do is it's going to provide support. When we tighten this down, it'll have good metal to metal contact. So when we run this all the way in, we want it to line up with our hole, making sure we have enough room to get our bolt through. So we'll just keep budging this over. Now to do these, you may need to take a screwdriver and clean these out a little bit or bend them down a little bit and just tap these into place, but we're going to do that on all of our holes. Now we're back in the bed, and what we're going to do is just come back through and drop down all of our carriage bolts through the holes that we drilled. When we get to our center holes, we're going to have two of those, and we want to do the same thing we did with our spacers on the outside through our channel. We want to get our spacer in between here where our hole comes through. That way we have a good metal to metal contact and we don't crush our hat channel. Now for our centers, we're going to do the same as we did with the side. We're going to use a large flat washer, a lock washer, and a nut. We'll just get those snug down as well. Now we want to get our brackets put in place, and I have the one for the passenger side. Now we're just going to get it lifted into place. And I like to loosely get everything put in place. On our passenger side, our hardware that goes through our frame is going to be a little bit different. For our driver's side, we're going to have just our washer, normal washers that go through, and then our standard hardware of our flat, our lock washer, and our nut on the back. But on this front one, since we're in the larger hole, we're going to have this spacer block, and we're going to use one of these instead of the washer. So we're just going to get that put in place, and now I'll loosely install my hardware through the frame. Now that we have our bolts through, we're going to get our hardware set up. We're going to use one of these offset spacers, and we're going to get those put in place. Then we're going to take our flat washer, lock nut, and our nut. And we're going to do that with all of our hardware that comes down out of our rails. Now we'll come back through and torque down all of our hardware. We're just going to torque it down to the specifications listed in our instruction manual. The first things we're going to do though is we're going to torque our rails that go across, so our bolts that are pointing down. We're going to go through and torque all those down first on both sides, and then we'll come back through and torque down our bracket hardware. Now that we have our rails in place, now we're going to deal with our second part of our installation, and that is going to be our fifth wheel. With this, you're going to have these arms, and you can set these up in whatever orientation you want them to be. With ours, we're going to have them in the middle, and with this part facing rearward more because he has a box in our neighbor's vehicle. So that's the way we're going to set these up. We'll just go through here and get us figured out which holes we want these to go with. And once we get to that, we're going to have these blocks that are going to go into the back up underneath. So it's easier to have this up this way so you can have access to that. But these are going to have the smooth holes on one side and then threaded on the other. We want to have our smooth holes facing our plate on the inside. Now we have our blocks, and we want to get those slid up in to the back. And we have our bolts with our lock washer on there. Now this is going to be totally adjustable. You can set it up however you need it and whatever type of trailer you are using yours for. Just want to get them started, top and bottom. Once we get our bolts and our arm lined up where we want them, we'll just come back through and snug down our hardware. Now we'll come back through and torque down our hardware to our specifications listed in our owner's manual. And if you don't have a torque wrench, you can pick one up here at eTrailer, or you can take a look at your local auto parts store and you should be able to rent one there. Now we built our little spring plate here, and what we're going to do is get this tapped in place onto our arm. So we're going to want to be a ½ inch down on our spring. So we're going to be right about there with that. Now this could be a little tricky, this part, but you're just going to want to tap that in place. Now we want to get our handle installed. We just want to slide that up underneath of the mount, get our Allen screws in place, and then we can start the nuts on the bottom on each one of those. Now we'll take an Allen wrench and just snug these down. They will crank down tight all the way. Let's get that tight. Let's give it a snug on both of those. Now on the top of our pads, we want to get a little bit of grease on there, so I have a little bit of white lithium. Just want to hit those. We do want to keep them lubricated. I'll just rub some of that all the way around it. Now we'll just lift the head into place and get that slip down on. Now that's going to lock in place once you release your arms. Just make sure everything works. Check the arm. The arm does work. Close that back up. And this will be our pin that goes into the middle hole of our handle, and that'll lock our handle in place. And that was a look at the B&W fifth wheel kit for 2016 Ford F-350. I'm Scott with eTrailer, and thanks for watching.